Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. I'm Jason, and with me today we have Tim, we have Will, we have Garrett, and holy crap, is that Sage Francis?
It's Sage Francis.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey guys.
Awesome.
So
Go ahead. You say I got a thing I want to say too. So you say your thing.
I was just going to ask you, why were you interested in coming on our little old guys discussing music channel?
I loved watching everything because it was great to see people who weren't familiar with my stuff at all talk about it and how they interpreted it, or like all the little guesswork that was happening. I just loved seeing how you were trying to make sense of what was what, and obviously Garrett is very familiar with stuff, but even he, I think, like over time things may have gotten misconstrued or just lost to memory. So I was watching and I wanted to take notes. And I was like, you know what, it'll be just fun to go through this with these guys, and yeah, I just appreciate the discussion that you had. Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
And we appreciate the fact that you made art and we got to review it. That's even better, You're awesome.
Yeah, we love doing the artwork videos.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I was talking about the music too, but yes, the artwork is fun.
All right, so
yeah, the artwork one was my favorite episode. That was definitely way up my alley.
Now, do you think it was your favorite because you had mentioned that other people just haven't really gone down that road before?
Right. Yeah, and it's also, I think it correlates really with the public in general. Honestly, I always stay aware of what people are saying and what people don't like, what they do like, and why. It's always, and I love it's a mix of stuff. It's never like this one thing is everyone's favorite, this one thing is everyone's least favorite. It's always a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And that changes over time.
Do you find that you're like the other people that are in your same boat do the same thing, or do you feel like you're kind of more isolated in that regard, where you kind of hyper focus on certain components, where other people are like, it is what it is?
No, I don't know. I think every artist is very tuned in and curious because you put so much work into what you do, and you like to know what the fans are saying, you like to know what the haters are saying, and to have absolute strangers comment on it is a big bonus because they're not, they got no skin in the game. They're not here to tear you down or build you up. It's really just I don't know, a side highway shooting. Very random.
It's free focus testing. It's beautiful.
It kind of, it makes me think of Andy Kaufman though, right? Where you come up with that idea of like, oh yeah, who would show up? And then I think you get surprised at times that people have come into your life and you're kind of like, wow, I really didn't expect this person to reach out and offer me help, but I really did expect somebody else who just stayed quiet. And it's kind of that idea that you're hearing stuff from people and you're kind of like, oh, it's a mixed bag, but it's good to hear the feedback.
Yeah, and I think with age, you notice that in general, what kind of people pop into your life 20 or 30 years down the line that you just would not expect. You didn't think they thought anything about you, and then they're like checking in for you, and then people you were best friends with, you just never talk to ever again. It's that's a weird part of life. It sucks, but that's life. That's where we're at.
Yeah. It's been interesting too, seeing how much that has affected, especially people our age that have kind of grown up with the social media, and everybody went through the phase. It's like, oh, let me look up this person from high school, or whatever. And yeah, like it's interesting. People you thought you lost contact with are now all of a sudden in your life again.
Yeah, Will and I were arch enemies in high school, but now we run a show together. So,
so you won the beard. You earned the beard, and he had to lose his.
That's right.
Yeah, I had to lose mine. Yeah, I did. It was getting a little out of control. I just had to take care of it.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. The girl doesn't like it that long, and I have to abide. It just is what it is. It's funny.
But yeah, that's
my girls never see me without a beard, and I think it'll traumatize the family.
Oh, I grew mine out just to spite my kid because she was complaining about it because I didn't shave. I'm like, I'm just gonna let it grow. She hates it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like literally like it's like if I did shave, she would not be attracted to me anymore. I don't think like because my face is that weird. That's why I have the beard. It's because
That's
I've got
why I shave.
no chin at all. It looks like a weird I don't know, some sort of drawing, crude drawing of some sorts. You know, it's just dumb.
So yeah, that's
All right.
what's fun about doing our show is, like after we record this, we're doing Faith No More, which I'm not a Faith No More guy, but these two are. So I'm gonna be the Tim on the Sage episode. I'll be the on the Faith No More episode.
The newbie.
Yeah, I'll be the newbie. So
So
hopefully, like with
say,
the Sage thing, and I'm now a fan, you'll become a fan of Faith No More, and it'll be an even better discussion down the road.
yeah, we'll
Mike
see.
Patton is an absolute master. That dude is beyond impressive.
Oh yeah,
Crazy talented. Like his vocal range and just I feel like he's just been a G for what since the 80s. It's really impressive. Yeah, he actually went to one of my shows in San Francisco. I had a quick talk
That's
with
awesome.
him. Yeah.
yeah.
I was trying to get him on the Life album because as you guys mentioned, I had a lot of different musical stuff on there just from random people who didn't really do hip hop. But yeah. I'm a big fan of his. I can't say I know much outside of like Mr. Bungle and Faith No More and what Fantomas was that his other?
Sure. You probably love the Peeping Tom record.
Okay.
Someone you worked with, Odd Nosdam, worked on that one as well. So.
Okay. Yeah. I think I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got so much crazy. Just the range is mind blowing.
So has it been a lot
Italian pop songs next to just the weirdest jazz you've ever heard next to sound.
It's a flex. I mean, sometimes it's too much of a flex. Maybe he's just showing off too much,
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
I mean, you got to sometimes, if you got it, flaunt it, it's fine.
Has it been a lot different for you making music now that you have a family and just operating and with maybe more responsibilities and maybe more things you have to sort of juggle at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't been able to finish a project. I'm mostly just hopping on other people's albums because I can do a verse and a chorus here and there. But to really dedicate the time that I need to do a full project that I'm proud of and it's a cohesive one, there's no possible way right now. I've got it. Like my boy is about to turn 3, the girl, and then once he goes into school and the 2 older girls are in school, that'll free up at least 5 hours every day, at least, hopefully, and then I can probably like really put my shoulder down and knock it out. But until then, I'm writing and I'm building the ideas, I'm collecting the music, and I who knows. Miracles happen. I could pull it off by the end of the year if I have a serious discussion with my family and say, listen, first of all, I'm going to go to the UK and do 2 shows, but the whole travel experience will be writing the album. And then I come back. If you can like give me 5 hours a day somehow, I think I can do it. Because I do want a new record out by next year. My last one that'll be 10 years since my last solo album.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember back, we were talking, and you probably heard that, but I remember back when the kids were younger, they are like an all hands on deck. And when you finally do get free time, there's like 42 things that you have to do. And it's just very hard to dedicate the time.
Yeah, it's not. And people do not understand if they're not in the situation. I didn't understand. I lived 43 years of my life without having a newborn. And now, like I can look back on my attitude that whole time and say, "God damn, you were stupid."
You mean the bratty little disasters on the airplane? We need to shut
that was
the fuck
true
up.
though. That was true. You need to shut your kids the fuck up on public transport. Yes, but sometimes you can't. You just can't.
It's only gotten worse as videos are surfacing of people letting their kids draw on the side of the plane and then throw all their food on the ground and not pick it up.
I saw that. That's just classless people, man.
Yeah. They've been around forever. Now we get to record them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for real. Like I'd say, like maybe like half of the societal dissonance happening right now is because you actually get to see how that part of society lives. It's just wild, man.
So did you have things that you wanted to, I don't want to say you came on just to correct us on, but were there kind of themes or things that were kind of
Yeah.
jumping out to you
Lay
that
it
you
out,
wanted
dude.
to address?
Yeah, I wanted to give context to certain things.
Cool.
Want to start with the artwork thing?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, we can.
I see that's up right now. Does everybody see that? That's
Yes.
watching. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is the artwork one.
Yeah. So the first album, the first studio album that I did, Personal Journals. I thought it was very funny. Someone said corn, like it reminded them of like a, I don't know, new metal or something.
I
That
can still kind of see that aesthetic.
Yeah, just because it's got like the kind of like creepy, cartoonish
Yeah, yeah.
quality
The
to
X'd out eyes. That was a common
right.
motif in that scene around that time.
So, and I was using that. I don't. Maybe this is when I first started doing that, but this is it became part of my whole uh, not logo, but
Persona?
I mean, my signature has it. It's like it's always been there since then.
Right.
So with
Okay.
Personal Journals, we did a photo shoot. I had like a very specific idea of what I wanted for the album cover, and a friend of mine named Kara Healy took me to a basement in Providence. We actually spray painted Personal Journals on the basement door. I had a key that I'm holding in my mouth.
Is that
And
the
if you
picture
see,
you recently posted?
Yeah.
You
yeah,
recently
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
saw
Yeah,
that.
that was
previous
another photo. It
on
was
that.
part of the same shoot. But the thing was, like, I hated the photos so much, like, because it just did not match what was in my head, and it just didn't look striking enough. And so while we were mastering the album in Maine, I remember laying on the floor with these big printouts of the photos, and I had a paper clip, and I started using it I scratched out the eyes out of spite. Honestly, I just was like, fuck this, fuck these eyes, fuck this mouth. And then I just kept going, and I just scratched all around. And I'm like, you know what? This is kind of cool. And I had my Sharpie on me. So I did like black Sharpie and red Sharpie, and that's all it was. I scratched my name into the black shirt, and voila. Like that was just the kind of it was the circumstance. I had to hand in the artwork right away. I was like, this is good enough. Like, it was not my goal. It's not what I went for. But it's what happened. And only a very small percentage of people were like, oh, that sucks. That's a whack album, which like surprised me because I did expect to hear more. That's like Korn. Or it looks like a heavy metal ripoff or something.
For me, like just in reference to the record itself, like the fact that I'm different or whatever, like around this time period, you didn't see many hip hop album covers without the person's face just plastered on it.
That's
and I
true,
kind of
too.
appreciate the fact that you were very kind of anti-commercial with it. You were like, no, this is truer to the album than the marketing kind of aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
and you just reminded me of another thing you guys said. It was like people didn't really know what people looked like back then unless their face was on the album cover or they had a video on MTV, none of which I had. So yeah, maybe it was me kind of protecting my privacy in a weird way.
Yeah,
I mean, the internet was out, but it was like not most people knew what I looked like, and I didn't want them to judge the album on my looks. That could have been here or there. I don't know if that even matters anymore.
Look. I saw the photo you posted that was the basis for this album cover. You're an attractive man. It was a fine photo. You would have been on.
Yeah, but that photo of me doesn't look like the album to me.
No,
When I look at that
No,
photo,
but the door with the Personal Journals part and like
yeah, but me, like I look like this. It's strange because I felt so old at the time, but now I look at it, I'm like, damn, that's a kid. That is a kid right there.
Sure.
It kind of
I
had that,
mean-
like, sitting there almost like that Eminem straitjacket type thing where he's sitting down in like the insane asylum. So I'm glad you went with this this style here because it's
that
obviously what's
fits the
iconic.
album to me. That cover fits
Yeah.
the feeling of that album.
Oh, I agree now. I've always I love it. It's the only album cover I did front to back all by myself outside of the mixtapes. Everything following that was done by other people. And one person, we'll get to that, but the follow-ups followed the same color scheme, which I love, the black, red, and white.
Yeah.
I know a lot of bands did that. And one of you mentioned it looked like a lot of the other Epitaph album covers of the time. So this was my first album with Epitaph, and we actually went with the Epitaph artist director who did this album cover. So what he did was he showed me covers he was working on. He showed me 3 images. This was one of them and 2 others, which all had a similar style because that's what they were doing at the time.
Sure.
I was like, you know what? I did my last album cover front to back. I handled everything. I know all about it.
It's part of
I
the
don't
joy
know.
of having labels. They can take care of that for you. You know, you just have
Yeah,
to
but on this one, I was like, I don't know anything about it, but I did like the fact that there was a broken picket white fence, and ambiguous symbology in the background. And I don't even know if it's like a mannequin with the head decapitated or what it is, but you guys mentioned like, what the hell is this? I see maybe a tattered U.S. flag
Flags,
there, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome.
But I like to think that's the outside of the house looking like toward the neighborhood or something from the personal journal's basement, a part of the same house. And every album cover, except for Life, kind of follows the same.
Yeah.
Like it's different perspectives from the same house.
Oh, that's
Well, it's
brilliant.
funny. Then you have the song with B. Dolan that's talking about the neighbors across the picket fence, right? It's just
Right.
always a good
From
one in
the
itself.
Epic Beardmen album. Yeah.
Right.
So this was inside. This was upstairs in the house. I had just moved into this Providence apartment, and it was not furnished yet. And the photographer was there doing headshots for me, and happened to capture this like kind of. I wasn't posing here. I was like either pulling up my pants or doing something, but he captured this when I was doing it, and for some, I don't know, for some reason, he showed me, he did like the spooky outside look. So he turned that red, did the vignette, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of, it's ambiguous. Oh, and who added to it was Sarah Coleman, or she also goes by Inky Mole. She's a brilliant and famous illustrator. So she did all the writing of the Human the Death Dance, Sage Francis with the heads hanging off and the skull kind of hidden in the background.
Okay.
And
because we all agreed that that's our favorite Sage Francis logo. I think is that one right there.
Yeah.
Like, we love that one.
Yeah. That's a
again,
cool logo.
I never used it as a logo. In fact, at the time, I really didn't like it because it reminded me. I didn't tell Sarah this, so if she's listening, I'm so sorry.
Nobody's listening. It's okay.
She'll listen. She like, it's very like I'm very particular, but there's an angle to it, and it reminded me of the Pizza Hut logo at the time for some reason.
Oh
No,
yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
The line work and the angle is very.
Yeah, the angle in the line, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it had a Pizza Hut thing spirit to it, and she probably never even saw that. I'm guessing like she's from the UK, but yeah. So, but all the way it all works together, I loved, and she detailed the booklet inside and the back cover and everything is in her hand style, which is very fancy and special. So I think that this album cover was not striking enough. It didn't pop the way the previous 2 did. No one was quite sure of what it meant or what it wasn't. It doesn't even look like it has a lot of meaning on first glance, and it's tough to read in thumbnail format.
See, I felt
always.
Oh, sorry, Tim. You go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay, I was gonna say when I first saw this artwork, though, I thought that maybe it was like they took the personal journals artwork and they were like, let's make this realistic and throw it into kind of an homage to it because you're standing in pretty much the same position, except instead of a door, there's a window going outwards instead of going inwards. Like I felt like that's
I know. I never noticed that before. That was not intentional, but yeah.
Okay.
But that's kind of cool.
He
like
doesn't
you
even
said,
have
they
the
all,
hat on. He's
like they
thinking
all kind of tie together because I never put that. But like, yeah, you're inside. There's a
So you
red
got the door.
sky.
Yeah. You got the picket fence, red sky. Now you get to finally see outside the house. There's the red sky.
Iconic. Iconic. I had that T-shirt, and I know that's I think your probably most popular tattoo people get is the life. I think that would probably be number one. I see a lot of people with the life with the brackets in it with the over the F. But I would say I've seen a bunch of people with that graphic over their heart too. That was your graphic, right?
No, this guy named Drew Spezial, I think is his name. He's in a metal band called Circle Takes the Square. He did artwork.
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. We've done some live shows with them, and he did this artwork, and I wanted just that could have just been the cover itself. I think it would have caught more eyes, that heart with the oil rigs pumping into it.
Hmm.
If we had just used that, I really think it would have changed people's perspective on the album in general. I think it would have changed their experience with the album.
So
But it
this
did.
one was on Epitaph as well.
Yeah, so I had a 3 album deal with Epitaph. This was the
Okay.
follow-up to
So
A
how
Healthy Distrust.
hands-on were they with that kind of stuff? Like, were they
On this
pretty
one,
important?
not whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. It was
Oh, okay.
I had me, um, Andrew St. James took the photo. Um, Sarah Coleman did the illustrating, and I believe Ink, I don't know what name she wants to go by. She was our art director at Strange Famous Records at the time. We called her, well, I don't want to say what her old name was, but she's a Croatian. And if you read her name, it would look like Irina. But I worked with her on tons of stuff since then. We like the most incredible stuff that Irina and Sarah Coleman did was on the Copper Gone cover work, which I know doesn't look like much, but the process that they went through in order to get it to be what it was kind of crazy.
I mean,
Because
it looks
this
like
was
it was
etched.
really imprinted on
It
copper.
literally was like we had to make.
Okay.
We had to make what they call a cliche. It's this thing that presses into copper, and we had to get the copper oxidization effect. To so
Yeah,
Sarah
yeah.
Coleman drew all of that. So here she is with another Sage Francis logo, and that one I actually did end up using for almost everything moving forward.
Okay.
And but again, it's not striking on first glance. I do think it is more unique and maybe works better as an album cover. Um, or maybe it should have been a horror book for children. It could have been a cover for.
Like it's an Edward Gorey book, you
But
know?
so many of the details are lost. If we just blew up that house, you would see like cats in the windows and
Yeah.
Oh
stuff
wow,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, this is a
So
low quality image too. Like it's
Yeah.
hard for me to find a good.
yeah, but again, I mean, Copper Gone being written on the house, you don't totally notice that. And um, um, I don't. Someone mentioned that yeah, there were buildings and houses in the area where I lived where Copper Gone was written on the buildings. As a way to tell people who are trying to strip it of copper or metal or whatever, like leave us alone, leave this spot alone. It's totally everything's been taken from us at this point. There's nothing to find here. So that was kind of the inspiration for the album title, but the real inspiration was I had a dream where my grandmother told me, "Hey, I really like that new Copper Gone album that you did." And that was before I named it Copper Gone. And I was like, you know what? I gotta call it Copper Gone now. So
Yeah.
that's
You got to
where that
trust
all came
your
from.
conscious sometimes, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It kind of made my mind made my mind up for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Was it therapeutic then? I mean, if it seemed like, I mean, it at least came across in the music like this was kind of like the lowest point, and of kind of where you were thinking, like feeling like a lot of depression and a lot of different emotions. So, like, was this very therapeutic to make this? Did it help you like kind of turn the corner, or was it something that happened after that point?
Yes, it did. The process of it, not just making it. I don't know if the process of I guess it got me busy enough to just get the wheel spinning so that I could get out. But we skipped like I don't know if I want to get into that before we go back to the Life album. Although we're
Sure.
not really talking about the music so much just yet.
Yeah, we're
But
talking about it all. It's fine.
okay, so yeah, so this was 4 years after the Life album, and as you know, the Life album had a very different sound. It was not anything you heard
Yeah,
from a Sage Francis album up to that
right.
point, and intentionally so because it was my last album with Epitaph,
Yeah, I gotta
and
milk that
they
budget, bud.
what's that?
Milk the budget, man. Go for it.
I regret that now in retrospect. I learned a lot about that, but I wanted to milk their resources. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. They said, let's like this is our last album together. We work with tons of bands. How about we start pitching demos to you from the bands we work with, or even bands that are in our like general sphere.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, have them send me demos. Don't tell them I want it to sound like a hip hop song. Send like their regular type of demo, and I'll provide the hip hop aspect to the song and see if I can make this all work. And
That's
so
really
we
cool.
got, yeah, I mean, so I worked with Death Cab for Cutie, Sparkle Horse, Granddaddy, um, the list goes on. Oh, Tim Fight, there, Jan Tiersen, who composed the Best of Times. So he wasn't even on Epitaph at the moment, and a lot of these bands weren't on Epitaph proper. They're on Anti, which was the subsidiary label, which my records ended up being on after Healthy Distrust. So I don't really understand the business part of that, but I will say, with it being my last album with Epitaph, and what you said was like milk the budget. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I fucked up because it was the most expensive album I ever made by far, and it ate into the profits of my previous 2 albums with Epitaph. And I didn't understand that there was like crossover, like you could spend so much on one album and it'll take away from the other albums. So
I didn't know that
if
either.
you still owe a lot of money.
That's why they were like, hey, yeah, go ahead, use all these resources. You should use them. That makes all the sense in the world, actually. Damn.
Yeah, it was also a Hail Mary. It's like, what do we do with this guy? Like, we think he's super talented. The president absolutely adored my stuff, everything that I did prior to Epitaph, and they always let me just do whatever I wanted. It's like they never tried to steer an album one way or another. And Life maybe is the closest they came to that, but it was all because I was willing to do it. I was like, I like that idea. I'll never have the chance to work with these artists of my own accord without a lot of legwork. So they already had the contacts. So
when
we
you
did
say
it.
go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Hail Mary because we didn't know how it would be received. It could have blown the hell up. It could have just been like, wow.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, you never know. Once you can record something and think it's awesome and everyone else hates it. You just don't know. And with this, it was so unique. It was so different. And a song like Best of Times could have absolutely blown up in its own. I mean, it kind of did. As in my career, of course, it's one of my most popular songs, but it's not. It never broke radio. It never got licensed to a movie or anything. So it's always the fans who are sharing, word of mouth style and sharing the video.
I just shared that video today with my best friend from elementary school, who he kind of likes hip hop metal. And I was like, hey, check this out. We're going to interview this guy. I know you never heard of him. And he was like, holy crap, that song reminds me of when we were kids. I'm like, yep, good stuff.
Yeah. And I know, I wrote that in one night. I recorded it the next morning. And I never expected people to identify with that song whatsoever. It's super particular to my upbringing. And people all the time now telling me, like, I can't believe you talked about this. I had the same exact situation. Same thing happened to me. But it's the kind of things we don't talk about, especially in hip hop. It's not like these aren't the kind of things you throw into a hip hop song. Like, check this out.
Sure.
Like, that's you've been doing that since the beginning of it all, right? That I think you might have heard me mention that was the most shocking part for me of how I came about from 92, 93. And then all of a sudden, you're fast forward through all those years of, and unlike the rest of the people here, that's all I have ever listened to is hip hop. So all of a sudden I hear the album and you're just kind of blown away because you're like, this is breaking ground in so many different ways. So
yeah,
great. Yeah, and other people benefited from that, I believe.
Yeah.
So to the degree, so that's what I'm saying. Like, we could have, with Epitaph's help and with the proper promotion, I think it could have broken through the glass ceiling that I've experienced, because other people went on to just absolutely blow up. I mean, I don't want to name names, but Macklemore took a lot from that. There's a lot of other artists, like a lot of people do quote unquote emo rap now, or they're very vulnerable. They're telling a very like soft story, and more power to them. I'm not saying they owe me anything except some recognition if I did influence them. And I find people are very reluctant to do that because they lose cool points by being like, oh yeah, that weird white dude that hardly anyone knows. I kind of aped that shit from him. They'd rather shout out much cooler and more well-established artists.
That they
And
don't sound like at all. Like, yeah, like
yeah,
heavily
Yeah.
Macklemore heavily influenced by, like Public Enemy. You're like, really?
right.
Don't
I
sound
wanted
like
to ask you about that because I feel like your influence is most definitely heard in the modern hip hop sphere, and it's kind of crazy that you don't get the credit that you are deserved. Like that's madness.
It's coming. It comes in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more appreciated these albums become. To some degree, a healthy distrust in personal journals were always like right off the bats,
Yeah.
really well loved. Human the Death Dance got shit on, sorta, because I kind of, if people were familiar with A Healthy Distrust, they expected a lot more punch to it because that
Yeah.
was a very aggressive album, very political, socio-political. And this one, I took a more personal turn, but Personal Journals was much weirder. Like this was just, I kind of had a more toned down style, but was more personal than I was on Personal Journals.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
people
I
don't.
loved Human the Death Dance when I first heard it, and I came from the punk rock, Epitaph, Healthy Distrust era, and hearing Healthy was
It just was a
refreshing.
more toned down. I think it was more toned down in approach and style and sound. But what really hurt it was it leaked 4 months before its actual release, and back then that really hurt you.
Yeah, that could make or break you at that point.
Yeah, everybody who even cared whatsoever about me had that album before it was even in stores. So
Yeah.
it took a huge hit sales wise, and that affected everything else. That affected Epitaph's, I think, attitude toward me moving forward, because all they saw was a decline in sales from
Yeah.
A Healthy Distrust to Human the Death Dance. But not only that, the sales in general were going way down. We were about to hit a great economic collapse of 2008, the housing crisis and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, in technology is caught up, and the industry itself as an industry kind of just changed dramatically at that period of time.
Yeah, the industry was wild different, and it's
Yeah.
always rapidly changing. But back then, you needed to have your album complete at least 4 months before the album release,
Yeah.
because you had to manufacture the vinyl, but you also had to send it out to press, and they needed 3 months to prepare something that would get published in a magazine. Nowadays, that's insane. So like no one cares about that, and no one's gonna have to fear their album getting leaked to Napster or anything. It's because most people are just streaming music,
Yeah.
So you actually have to dig. You have to dig for a leaked album these days. You have to really
Yeah. I mean, most artists are in charge of their release anyway now. It's not up to a record label. There's no distribution anymore. It's just like you decide, hey, I'm going to put out a song on this day and this week and this month, and you do it. And that's
most do. But running a record label, an indie label, most of the time we do just stick with digital, and we'll sell the physical product on our own site or on Bandcamp if people want it. But for something that I think has much greater appeal or could break, we'll do the old style of physical distribution, so you can find it in stores. And we just did that with the Personal Journals repress vinyl, so you can find that in all stores. And I wouldn't be able to do that without working with a distributor who also, if you work with a physical distributor, you have to give them your digital distribution as well. And there come rules and restrictions when it comes to something like that. But most of the time, you're right. You could record an album, release it the next day on all streaming platforms. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
So going forward with that,
about this specifically, that's
fascinating. Is there like a magic number on streams or something that determines what gets a physical press, or like from a label?
It's totally opinion based. It's totally, it's just like I can see a lot of people outside of our typical sphere digging this. We're gonna put an extra amount of money into the publicity of it and promote it like crazy and dedicate more time to it than we usually would. But we're still figuring this out. It is still a new world. We're still I want them to make money off of their releases. And if they're going to do a physical release, they're not going to see much money at all, due to how much it costs to manufacture it, to ship it, the waiting on return from the physical distributor. So doing it in a way where we will sell everything from the store, the online store, and then the best way for anyone to make money in music is to sell at live shows and to
Right.
do live shows. But I happen to work with a lot of artists who don't tour anymore, and they're not going to see that. They and the newer up and coming artists don't even have that hustle in them. They don't understand the merch table. They just I built my mini empire manning my merch booth as soon as I got off the stage. Because you want to take advantage of all the impulse buys. You want people to support you if they want to support you, and be like, yeah, like that's how I'm living off my music. I go there with my tapes and my CDs. They were kind of, they were relatively cheap to manufacture, and now I make a $10 profit on the thing.
Sure.
So those were the good old days for sure. Nowadays we're figuring out other ways to make money.
I've run many a merch table for many a band, so it's very important. I know that much.
It's the most important. Yeah, I mean, we did the Strange Famous Festival in Denver for the first time this summer, and it was a free show. People could get in for free, and I was thinking, they're going to be more apt to buy merch if they got in for free. So we really have to, So and that merch line did not end the whole fucking night. Pardon my language.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yep.
So I've got a question about the Life cover. Well, technically it's my mom. My mom watches the show, and she said, "What is up with the goat ears?"
There's a lot. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot.
Again, I loved hearing you guys discuss this because there's so much history to it that I don't know who would know it except for people who came up the way that I did. But you are older gentlemen. You remember Shepard Fairey, or you remember the Andre has a posse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this face of mine that you see on the cover is from the 1999, my very first mixtape release called Sick of Waiting. So that is a drawing of the picture of that face where I had the handlebar mustache. And I ended up using that as my label logo. Part of like just the outline of my hair and the handlebar mustache is my label logo.
That's good.
And I've used it repeatedly through the ages. So my first single and Makeshift Patriot single, I used that same photo. And I used it in tons of different shirt designs, and it just was this omnipresent image that I kept using. And what inspired that was the Andre Has a Posse stickers that I would always see everywhere. And Shepard Fairey, who did that, he started off in Providence. And so I asked him if he wanted to do the Life album cover for me. And I told him also that like what inspired me to keep using that image was his Andre Has a Posse sticker and the artwork. And he ended up using it inside of a O.D.D book that he put out, where a lot of people have used that kind of in their own way. They've like remixed it in different ways. But he this was soon after he did the poster design for Obama's campaign, the first campaign. So the Hope campaign. And if you look real hard at it, you can kind of see a similar style.
Yeah.
If it was in color,
I understood completely a lot. Like there's some extraneous stuff on the sides and the borders that I don't know fit, but the actual portrait style for sure, that's Shepard Fairey.
Yeah. So that portrait style. So if we did it in color, I think you'd see it like, oh yeah, that's the same artist. But so people didn't make that connection at all. Shepard Fairey's super famous, he's like a wildly known artist, like
great
right
artist,
under Banksy, really. So as far as street art is concerned, but maybe, I don't know, I'm not really big into the art world, but it was cool that I'm from Providence. He started out in Providence. I was able to continue this theme, and he was willing to do this on the cheap. He didn't like hit me with Shepard Fairey prices. he gave me a deal on this, and this is I was very thankful for that. So the border, he showed me 3 different borders I could choose from, or none at all, but I liked that one. I liked all of them. That was really tough to choose from. But yeah, all the other stuff he had going on, this album was kind of an attack on the influence religion has on culture. So the Life album
Right.
is really an anti-theist album.
Well, that explains a
Um,
lot of the iconography and all that kind of stuff going on.
Absolutely, yeah. So we wanted to take from religious imagery and just mess with that.
Like
So the
the
goat
pagan.
ears, that may even like be a reference to Pan, or
Yeah,
you know,
it's pagan. It's pagan.
it's-
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
You get the crucifix, which I thought was a target reticule, but it could be a
It is.
crucifix.
No, yeah, that was supposed to look like a crucifix, but also crosshairs.
Nice.
And the thumbprint on my throat, so the signature style on my voice.
Didn't
And
notice
again,
that.
I didn't even notice that there, man. That's beautiful.
all of this super subtle, and you can see flames. I'm kind of like in hell, probably.
Sure.
I'm just noticing that now.
Mars or Earth behind it.
And I would say the only thing I don't love about it is the life, the way the diamond life. It's something about that just it feels a little forced. Maybe it
feels very
takes,
like the jeans that you used to buy from the store that had the bejeweled stuff on the back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So he was probably struggling to figure out how to fit the album title into this image without taking away from all the other stuff that's going on. But it also makes it very tough to see what's happening with the letters of life. But you know, I'm super nitpicky right now. But overall,
I mean, dude, you got to collaborate with Shepard Fairey on a piece of art. That's beautiful.
Yeah, all the people I collaborated with on this project was so cool. And I got to, I spent a month in Chicago recording it at a really well-known studio where Brian Deck is the producer. He also produces he's done a lot of stuff, but I forget. Fuck it. I don't want to shout him out or anyone else, but because that dude made a lot of money off of this and did not.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did not put in that much work. He's a wonderful engineer and a great drummer. Modest Mouse. He does a lot of the Modest Mouse albums.
Okay. Hey man, would you ever do a record with Steve Albini? I would love to hear a Steve Albini like hip hop record. That would be wild as shit.
Yeah, I've looked into that. I looked into that ages ago. He has zero interest in that, and he's not the kind of producer. I don't know. He's not the kind of. He's kind of the producer who's just there and lets you know if it's good or not. But he's not there to like steer the ship at all. It's a lot like Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin's not really doing anything else other than nodding his head and then saying, "No, do something different."
Think about what studio was
When you say Hail Mary, then was the thought process then that you would have another like an extension through Epitaph if this was to have reached a certain amount of popularity,
or even anti?
If it did, I don't know if I would. It's so tough to say because my contract was up, so they would have to present, and I wasn't in love with that contract. I didn't like how I got tied to a 3-album deal. At first, I thought it was great because I'm working with this like rather large company with like lots of outreach. What they did with the Healthy Distrust album was incredible. I was on park benches. I was on like buses. Everyone at least in LA in that area knew this album. But that's where the love affair ended. And had I realized, the flames can go out, and then it's a struggle to get them to do anything. So I did practically everything else moving forward. My call ends in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, you're more than welcome to hang out for more. But just in case you don't, I do have a question for you around our podcast. If there was any hip hop artist or just artist in general that you would like to see us review, who do you think it would be? Who would you suggest? Especially for me, somebody that's like only has a vague reference of hip hop outside of like MTV Raps and whatever's popular at the time.
So an artist that's been around a while, so you can like do like a long,
like a whole discography, man. Like, just follow it through.
Oh, I don't want to shout. I don't want to like suggest someone on my label. That's too.
No, that's fine.
I suggest
no. That's good. That's good. Let's do some market synergy here, man. Come on, that's fine. Let's do it.
I really want to challenge you guys. I want to hear something that is like someone who came up Because you guys don't know any hip hop, like you just like you
I
know
love
Public Enemy. And,
I'm a Cool Keith
Yeah,
fan.
like I mean, like I know Aesop Rock, and I know the
Yeah,
old classics like Public Enemy and
Yeah, Run DMC all day long.
and whatever was popular in the '90s, like Ludacris and all that kind of stuff. Like I know all that stuff.
I
I
probably
like the
come
Fat
with,
Boys.
I mean,
Houdini.
bias.
And I love Talib Kweli and Black Star and Mos Def. I love those.
I'm about to do a show with Talib Kweli in
Fuck
Norway.
yes!
Nice.
Yeah, I hope to never get into an internet fight with him. It's a very scary prospect.
Be his friend, you'll be fine.
I don't know. That's a great question. I would love to hear. I don't want to say anything that's so obvious.
No, dude, Vito.
No, because I'd be like De La Soul, but it's too
Okay,
obvious.
Soul's a good one.
Public Enemy, too obvious.
No, it's not. That would be good. I'd be okay with that too.
I thought Atmosphere would be a good one because I know you came up with them.
Yeah,
They kind of toured with them, right?
Yeah.
That was how I came to know you. Actually, was through the whole Rhyme Sayers thing in the early aughts.
Yeah, Atmosphere is a wonderful option. So, and I just saw Slug at the Strange Famous Fest. He was nice enough to swing through and rock with us on stage. He is a big reason I ever got my name out there. They took me on their first tour. They didn't have to do that. I was not on his label, but he took a liking to me, and like I got to rock with Idea and Abilities, and hey, you know what? Right. Do idea. That's the homie. So
okay, all right.
So yeah. So he passed away in 2010, which was tragic. We didn't get into why there was a 4-year gap between Life and Copper Gone, but the passing of Idea, the passing of my father, both happened while I was on tour. Those aren't the only reasons, but they were a big reason why I thought I had to stay home and make a life for myself outside of music, because I was getting older and I didn't have anything at home. So that always made me want to be on the road.
Yeah.
That just didn't feel like the way to live. And I'm glad I made the transition. But after Copper Gone came out, I toured nonstop for 2 straight years, just because I was like, oh my God, I still don't have anything after 4 years of living at home because I'm a fucking shut-in. I'm a total hermit and I'm not a social dude. So that's what happened. That's my story, and I thank you guys again. You're so fun to like chat this stuff about, and thanks for letting me just make sense of what you guys were curious about.
Thank you for making sense of it.
I guess I never really understood the origin of where your name came from. So where did the name Sage come from? And would you remember like about when you got coined as that, or maybe you created it and came up with it yourself?
Yeah, I had a lot of really horrible rap names. I started rapping when I was 8. So at 8, I called myself Ace.
Hell yeah.
And then there was, it was just like every whack iteration moving forward. And the last whack iteration I had was Hostile. And that was HOSTYLE.
Definitely.
And then I saw in the source, or even in a record store, there was an artist named Hostile with that same spelling. Oh. And I was taking rap very seriously at this point. So I was like 14. Maybe 13. But Hostile, the QT Wonder. It was all an acronym for something. Ooh. So when I was reading one of my raps to my first girlfriend of 4 years, who actually is probably a big reason I ended up having a career, because most of my material was kind of addressing how fucked up I felt it was that she left me. So it was like I had the Taylor Swift thing going on. Or,
I mean, that's the muse. That's the ultimate.
Yeah,
muse.
that's every artist ever thing going on.
But yeah, she was my best friend, and we spent every day together or talked every single day. And I shared my raps with her, and she after one of them, she was like, damn, you're a sage. Nice. And I didn't know what that meant. And she had to explain it to me. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, actually, that would be a cool graffiti name. I like the letters SAGE, 4, like nice. You could block letters would look cool. And so I tried to like be a graffiti artist. And there's a really great, at least 2 great graffiti artists named Sage. I happen to have been horrible at it. I was a very bad graffiti dude. but yeah, so then I adopted it as my rap name. And what happened with Hostile, I was like, listen, there's going to be another Sage out there. I have to differentiate. And Francis was my middle name, and it was a name I hid from my friends forever because I was so embarrassed by it. I really didn't like the effeminate like quality of Francis, or it could be a guy or a girl depending on how you spell it. It just sounds soft. So I took the cool sounding name and I mixed it with the name that I was embarrassed by to make Sage Francis. And I felt like that just worked perfectly for me, and I could pass it off as my actual name to people. It wasn't like a hip hop name. It wasn't like MC Francis the Sage or
or Hostile with a Y.
Yeah. So that's how it all started off. And credit to my first girlfriend for all the rewrites and the rights and
the muse rewrites.
That's
So
awesome.
I guess that to kind of going with that topic, this is a question I've really wondered for such a long time. When you started out, or in kind of how you saw your career develop over the years, when your fan base obviously changed from what we would have thought like hip hop fans were in like 93, 94, 95, like I was ready to like take a bus to New York City and just try to be a part of the scene.
I did that.
Yeah, right? Just like hang outside of Fat Beats and just
I
chill
did
out.
that.
You did. I remember. So I want to, it's hard for me to word this in a way, but did your fan base, was it what you thought it would be? And then did you or did you envision like you were going down a different course with your rap, and you were going to ultimately attract a different fan base, and it was going to be so much different than how some of the traditional hip hop artists were? And so did you kind of have that realization at some point that like you were attracting like a bit of a different audience from your typical like hip hop?
I did. I think it probably happened at the same time it happened to Atmosphere.
Okay.
And when we were touring like punk circuits, and we were opening up. I'll backtrack a little bit. The first studio album I did was with a live band, and so that was in 97 and 98 and 99. It's called AOI, which was Artificial Intelligence. De La Soul went on to
let me open up the Google tab real quick, because holy shit. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I'm bumped.
It was cassette only for that, right? Or no?
No, it was actually CD only, and it was very. Actually, I ended up printing tapes for it.
Oh, okay.
But that was down the line. That was when I was in need of more merch, so I was like, I got this other thing. I'll just make a tape of it and sell it at shows. I don't like the album. I like some of the songs on it. It wasn't what I intended for my music to sound like, because I only liked sampled beats. I was a hip hop kid through and through. I only wanted loops. I only wanted stolen drums. It had to be that sound. That's what I grew up on. That's what I loved. And no one was making me beats. Like there was no one in my vicinity really who had the capacity or knowledge of how to make beats the way I like them. And samples were very hard to come by at the time. They were very expensive. And even if you had a sampler, you had to have the knowledge of where to get your source material for samples. It's a tough game. It's a very like
before digital.
A producer. Before digital. So like digging through vinyl and knowing where to look to find the right sounds and how to use them. So I felt like it was a matter of circumstance. No one was making me beats, and here was a fucking great band willing to like make music to my verses and the songs I already had written with no music for them. I could have been more grateful than I was at the time. I look back on it and I think, damn, there were a lot of missed opportunities. I really could have worked more with these live musicians than I did. There were a lot more possibilities, but I still was trying to break into the hip hop market, which was, it was a very gated community, and I wasn't going to get any love with a live band. We weren't the Roots. It didn't like the Roots made beats that sounded like they were sampled, like the Roots were a live band that sounded like rap beats.
Right.
And that's not what these rock kids and jazz kids were doing for me. We had a whole other thing going on. So, and it almost bordered on rock rap, which we didn't want to do. But I was into the hardcore scene as well at the time, and that's where we were getting our fans from. And those were the shows we were playing. So we're playing with hardcore and punk bands, and we're playing with ska bands. And there was so playing with a live band actually was so important to the live element, not only because it taught me how to work with live musicians and um and respect how much work it takes to get everything to work together, but a lot of cities at the time in the late 90s weren't allowing rap shows. A lot of clubs banned hip hop because there was so much violence and there was shootings, and that also happened in Providence. So in Providence clubs were not fucking with hip hop.
And hardcore kids are like, yeah, we know violence. It's okay. Come on. Come
right.
I'm not gonna say there was a racial element to it, but I'm gonna say there wasn't. Like I definitely, maybe some white privilege took part in this, in us being able to finally do rap shows in a city that didn't allow rap shows, you know. But that also that came with us opening up for the agents and like I mean, my roommate for a while, his name's Jesse Leach. He was in the band, or is in the band Kill Switch Engage.
Oh, well, I know them quite well. Okay,
yeah. So we lived together for a year in the same house with a couple other artists. He was recording his first album at the time. I was recording my first album at the time. Very magical period, but it was like if I didn't work with those bands, these clubs wouldn't recognize that we were bringing in our big audiences that weren't violent.
Mm-hmm.
And so they saw money, and then they were like, yeah, you can come back. Actually, you know what? You can do your own show. Yeah, you can do more hip hop. You can have other rappers come in. So we started throwing more and more hip hop shows in an area that previously was not allowing it. And that's thankfully because I had a live band. Again, so total matter of circumstance, but it worked out, and everything's like flowed from there.
Well, that takes me to a question. I was curious what the scene in Providence is like now compared to then, and your thoughts on it. Because Providence isn't really known as a music town, you know, but
no, it is though. I mean, it's got Lightning Bolt. We had the noise bands. Like Providence had grimy metal noise bands. And I can't say that I'm too up on too much Providence music, but it was a thriving scene for a long time. Took a big dip, and then in recent years, I think it's picking back up again. But we had a lot of abandoned warehouses that we threw illegal shows at. That's where all the best stuff was happening.
Okay.
So Arab on Radar, what was the name of the Chinese Star, Daughters.
Yeah. Right. Shit.
Yeah, they
saw them
killed
not too long ago. Yeah,
they were so good. It's not my style of music, but to watch it live,
scary. Jesus.
I mean, I could go on and on. There's a ton. I'm missing. Deer Tick. So Deer Tick was one of the bigger bands that came out. They actually did a show in my apartment back in the day before they blew up.
Well, you were on the radio in Rhode Island as well, which I know that was pretty big for you to get your voice out, right?
Yeah, that's how I was able to. So I kind of infiltrated the local college radio station, and I would jump on everybody's rap show. I would always try to rap live. And that can go one way or another. People could get sick of you, and they did, but you could also earn a fervent, loyal fan base that way if you're providing something unique that they don't get from anywhere else. And that's how I populated my mixtapes with recordings, because I would record a lot of the stuff off the radio that I did live, and it would, that would fill in the gaps of a 90-minute tape, or actually longer. How long did they get back then? I forget. But so doing that,
90.
Yeah.
That's the side.
Yeah. So self-promoting myself constantly on the radio station, which only obviously reaches the local, like it was some Massachusetts, some Rhode Island, some Connecticut, some Long Island.
Got all recorded, which you could use later though. That was great.
Yeah. So that's honestly some of the smartest shit I did back then, because I couldn't afford studio time, but I was getting my name out there. I was getting recordings. I was able to use them on mixtapes and sell them to people when they saw a performance of mine. And so yeah, having that, but on top of that, having the message board, when we did, like, that was before social media. So if you had a message board or a forum, and it was a spot everybody went to talk about whatever, that became the town center for your community, internet community. And not many people were on top of that the way that we were back then. There was undergroundhiphop.com, and they were the biggest hip hop forum in the late 90s. And then we were the second biggest for quite a long time. And no one really recognizes that because we're not part of hip hop lore, but it's true. And that's also how I was able to get as much done as I got done. I really regret that we had to get rid of that forum because there's a lot of history on it, and it exists somewhere. It exists somewhere.
Was it on Angel Fire?
It was riddled with viruses. It was messing up our website. So like the web store is the most important part of your website, right? Right. We had to get rid of that forum, and everybody was kind of got they dissipated, and they went
now
to
they're on Facebook
and or MySpace, Friendster. It was all those things.
Some you would check like, you know, daily, be like, oh, let me check in and see what threads are going on. Let me see where, you know, things are at, and you're just like, oh, it's a community of people that are like you, similar tastes, and you're like can gravitate towards it. So it was great. I used to go on there all the time.
And you could do that back then, and you couldn't do it now because people don't have time to do that. They have to go check out their Twitter, check out their Instagram, check out their TikTok, so everyone, it's been spread out. It's been decentralized.
Yeah. Like, I will say though, it's really cool that you actually hang out in your Facebook group and you pay attention and you talk.
Yeah, that is true.
That comes from the forum days. That's because I knew how much value it had. I knew how much worth it had to actually have these interactions with people who appreciate your music or want to be part of this community. Sure. Like, where would we be without me having those like genuine interactions with people, whether they're good or bad? I'm not going to say it's all love. We have disagreements sometimes, and people these days are more apt to, like, if they feel like they're politically on another side than you are, then you're a piece of shit, and you hit the block button and lose another fan. But fuck them, that's where I did that in the forum days as well. Like, I learned it doesn't matter.
There's always been a block list, and the block list,
your permissions have been revoked.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's interesting is that, like, you were so good and got a lot of notoriety for the battle rap and for the battle raps, but it wasn't something that you really, maybe did you decide like, hey, I can do this, it's cool, but it's just not for me? Like, when it comes, it's so different from obviously the personal nature of your album. So was that like a conscious effort that it wasn't gonna like keep on trying to be like a battle rapper on the side?
Yeah, I felt that was very restrictive. The battle rap mentality, you don't see too many popular battle rappers having good music or good albums. It's not, it's different brain muscles. It's different creative muscles, and I could do it. I could flex them. What worked in my favor was how comfortable I was on stage, because I had performed under so many different circumstances, whether it was in poetry spots, hardcore spots, heavy metal spots. Back in the day, it was like grimy rap spots where you could have definitely gotten killed for saying the wrong thing. So then when I'm under a circumstance where there's rules, there's a judge, I grew up on sports. Like, I understand competition. I understand how to operate under these certain rules and restrictions. That was easy for me. And I wouldn't even say I was on top of my game when I won the biggest rap battle, because I didn't kill it with bars. You pick your spot and say one biting thing that, like, it sticks to someone forever. And you find that you have to like work with the energy of the crowd and figure that out in the moment. I was good at that, but I had already been over the rap battle stuff. In fact, the only place where it really is prevalent is on an album you guys didn't talk about, which is definitely a solo Sage Francis album, was the Nonprofits Hope album. So Hope came out after Personal Journals, but we called it Nonprofits because it wasn't just supposed to be me. Like, in my mind, it was going to be a crew of people, like at least a few different MCs from our area that just kind of never stuck with it. So we had built up the name Nonprofits. We got a different record deal with a UK label called Lex. I totally regret doing that. But it was one of the most lauded albums I ever did. It got tons of media praise. People still say, oh, it's the best album you ever did, if they're hip hop heads, because that catered to the hip hop crowd. That was punchline material, that was absurdist material, that was funny material, and it was almost totally devoid of the personal, vulnerable stuff you hear on a lot of my other albums, except for maybe like an abstract song such as The Cure. And that's the most popular song from the Nonprofits album. So, but yeah. So I saw the restrictions in battle rap. And it turned into a whole other thing down the line. It's not anything like it was before. People definitely build their own career just doing battle rap, not having to put out actual material like music albums. More power to them. It's its own game now. It's its own subgenre. It's not even. I mean, it's more akin to roast battles from comedy than it is hip hop music.
It's more wrestling than music at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. And it's just as entertaining to me. Like I can watch one of these new age battle raps, and it's just as entertaining to me as a new like pro wrestling thing where people are getting worked. Sometimes you're wondering, like, did they set all of this up?
Hearing you talking about like stepping up and like being good at it just naturally, I was like, yeah, he watched wrestling. He knows what's up. Like that's what's.
I did. When I dropped, I was an '80s kid. Of course, I watched wrestling. We didn't have shit else to watch. We had cartoons on Saturday morning, and that then wrestling happened.
And then Hulk Hogan versus Earthquake, and that's just all there is, man. It's okay.
I was gone after Ultimate Warrior. That's when after Ultimate Warrior, I dipped, and then I kind of like became more aware recently.
I'm gonna do the same sales pitch I do every time. It's really good right now, man. You should check it out. It's a lot of fun.
He's been saying it for years.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So if you include Hope, do you have one of your studio albums that you like the most? And I know it's such a personal question, and you probably like them all for different reasons. Or let me rephrase it. Do you have one that you feel is your best musical talent, like full package, like out of all the albums that you have? Do you think there's one that stands out, or is it really hard for you to make that decision?
Or is it the one next?
Yeah, it's the next one.
Tom Brady status?
Probably not the next one.
The one after that.
I would say, I think of it in terms like this. Healthy Distrust was the most accessible album of mine. I think it's the most well-produced. Overall sheen of it is like very, very professional. There's layering going on in there that I listen to now. I'm like, oh, I forgot I did that. That's really cool. I wish I had done that more. There's just special elements to that. Personal Journals is the most raw approach and very experimental, the most experimental out of all the albums. Even Life, Life is super structured. Personal Journals was just almost like I'm about to like jump off a fucking bridge at some point. Like you don't know where it's going. It's all over the place. So I remember you guys talking about Personal Journals and all that's going on. I didn't know if I was ever going to do another album in my life. Like this felt like my one opportunity to stuff it with as much as possible, show every side of me, show everything I'm capable of. And even I wasn't even ready for some of the stuff that I was doing. It was still kind of new to me. So there's a rawness to it where it's like, I don't quite have this thing figured out, but I think you can hear me figuring it out as I'm doing it. Like I'm not totally there just yet. I'm blossoming. I'm a brand new artist as far as the world is concerned. And I even include the reason I included My Name is Strange, which is the Turn the Page cover or parody, is because I wanted to include AOI. So that was a recording of a live AOI show. So I wanted my band to be part of that. I didn't want to like not include them. And I felt like that was the best way for me to do it with a live performance to show how fun those shows were, because they were tons of fun. And I will say, I just recently learned that Bob Seger heard that song and he liked it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
I mean, there you go, right there.
His wife didn't like it. Bob Seger liked it though.
I mean, we know which opinion matters there.
Well, I think back and I'm thinking one of the worst things that you had ever said, and the worst thing that never even remotely came true, ever, is when you said it's all downhill from here, just like the Patriots, and then they went on to win Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl.
Yo, so that was in man, that happened right before all the Patriots dynasty
Maybe 99,
happened.
2000.
Yeah, but so what's funny is the first battle that I won, the biggest battle, the first big battle was in Boston on a Super Bowl night. We had every Super Bowl they hosted a battle. So can you imagine that? Like we
Oh
didn't
my
care
God.
about the Super Bowl whatsoever. It was a
Right.
background noise to our rap battle. So I won that in 1999, and they still had it for maybe 2 more years. But after that, it was impossible because the
Yeah.
Patriots were, winning all the. Yeah,
Right.
So
Nobody cared about the rap battle anymore.
no.
I always found that line super funny every time you hear it, and you're just like, oh, they just like that 6 rings with the Patriots, another one with
Works now though. Works now.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Jason. I know I'm sort of monopolizing the time here.
No, you go ahead, Garrett. You're the expert.
I mean, I don't know that. He said I got a lot of stuff wrong, so I don't know
Well,
about that.
all I have to add to that one is that I'm from Alabama, so I know a little something about dynasties. So mad respect to New England, I guess.
Are you talking about college football?
Yeah, I'm talking
Oh,
about college.
that doesn't count, sir.
Look, man, we don't all live in a major city.
Roll
we
Tide.
can find it, sir. We can find our football.
Roll Tide.
Well, I will also say, what is it? The new U.S. Football thing they got going, Birmingham,
USFO. Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama. What's up?
All
They're
right.
killing it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I guess my last question, I had noted here, and this might be a tough one for you to answer, but maybe not. Who is your favorite mainstream hip hop artist to come out after 1995? So I think it's easy for you to go back to the people you grew up on in like the 80s and early 90s and just rattle off some of those bands and whatnot. But I decided to pick 94, 95 because that's for me like those 94 to 96 golden years. So it's people that sort of came out after that point. Who's your favorite like mainstream hip hop artist?
Wow, that's such a tough question.
Because I know you've had
some
spouts against some of the biggest ones out there, right?
You know what's crazy? I've said this a lot over this discussion. Crazy. This is crazy. Jay-Z, but he didn't come out after 95.
No, but
he's the
I
main
love to
one.
hear you say that.
Yeah, I hated on him so hard. I really disliked the influence
Your band
that
did
he
too.
had.
When you used to tour with that band, you guys would like have that song played, and they'd all stop the music.
We had a great hip hop disc. We had a great Jay-Z disc over his like Rick Rubin beat. But I can say I'm wrong in retrospect. I can't say I'm wrong. I still don't like the influence that he had on the culture. I still don't like all the people who emulated him and did. I think they just dummied down hip hop way too much. They could never be as clever or as smart as Jay-Z. He is a special human being. He has a special mind. I recognize that. Back then, I was very reluctant to see any value in Jay-Z because I hated the flashiness. I hated mafioso raps. I didn't want any part of that, and I knew I wasn't part of that. So I wanted to totally differentiate myself from the whole thing that he was carving out for so many people. But now I look back on it, and I could have never thought I'd like Jay-Z more than I do Nas, because when Illmatic dropped, to me that was the pinnacle of hip hop. Nothing was ever going to top that. And it's still some of the most incredible writing hip hop has ever seen. And it's such a wonderful marriage between lyrics and beats and the time period and the vibe and everything else. Like, I don't think I would listen to a Jay-Z album and enjoy it as much as Illmatic, but as a rapper and as an artist and as, a person, I find Jay-Z to be much more engaging and interesting.
Now, the one thing I'll say about him, I agree with everything that you're saying. The one thing I'll say about him is his subject matter didn't change much, right? Album after album, he stuck with the formula until he got to like a little bit later on where he started to get a little bit older and do more. But the formula is there. When you read his book, The Coded, that came out, which I did, like all the lyrics are kind of the same, like, drug game, girls, money, cars, and really kind of took a lot from Cool G Rap. I mean, Cool G Rap didn't get nearly as much publicity, but kind of started that whole mafioso and like the flashiness, and he didn't really get the accolades.
I loved Cool G Rap right up until the point he started to do with that as well.
Yeah. Well, my top 5 albums of all time: number 1, Personal Journals; number 2, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt; number 3, Illmatic; number 4, Liquid Swords, and number 5, Mad Villain. So you mentioned a few of the, well, a couple of those obviously are near and dear. So it's interesting how it's a wide range of all those things to appreciate. But some of it is where you were at the time in your life when it came out.
Yeah, totally.
All right, that's my list there, Jason. So go for it.
Well, the only other question I had was, so what pull do you have with Stephen King?
What pool?
Paul.
Yeah, yeah, pull. Sorry.
Oh, well, my on personal journals, there's a song called "Broken Wings." It was written about a girl that I was a girlfriend of mine who lived in Bangor, Maine, which is Stephen King's town. So she showed me where he lived. So I could always go back there and kind of like throw a brick at his house with a note attached, and your URL will be on it, your
Nice.
YouTube page.
Well, that brings up a good question though, because I just thought I think somebody missed Broken Wings, because I always assumed that it was about an artist in that it was in your town that couldn't break out of the town, but then somebody made it.
That it is. But
Oh, okay.
she was from Bangor, Maine, though, so she brought me
Okay.
to her hometown, and but yeah, I mean, she was the impetus for the song. I wouldn't say it's totally about her, but it really, a lot of it is, because I watched her situation. I watched how talented she was, how many people tried to grab onto her and hold her down, and like, you can't do this without me type shit, you know. A lot of things, I like, women deal with that hardcore in hip hop or in music in general.
Yeah.
Music,
It's like, if you just see someone beautiful and talented, you grasp onto them. You don't want to let go. You're like, oh man, this is, I can recognize how incredible this is. I don't want you to do this without me being involved or whatever. And it fucks with a lot of careers. It's really sad to see happen. Yeah.
Someone said you were trying to save a prostitute, and I was like, man, I didn't really get that out of that. And then there's a line or two that I'm like, maybe. But
Yeah, it could apply. A lot of strippers ended up dancing to that song, which I don't.
Fair. That's fair.
I like it though. No, that makes sense. I'm glad that was at least closer to right on what I was thinking there.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else we got right or wrong.
Oh, the "Call Me Francois" sample. That was the other thing. We were wondering, is that sampled from an '80s TV show?
No, it's played from a synthesizer.
That was like Knight Rider-esque.
No, I love Knight Rider. It's definitely not Knight Rider. That's Busta Rhymes actually did a really cool song.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any future for Zalzan, or is that part of your career kind of over with?
It's so over with. It probably might come about just for the shock factor of holy shit, he actually did it. Because I don't have many of those things left in me. You know, it's like, I used to love that. I used to love coming from out of left field with something and people being like, what? So who knows? Right? I do know. I got the lyrics. It's just, it's a lot different coming out of a 47-year-old father than it was from a 25-year-old wild kid.
Trust me, there's a lot of that can't get played around this house that I have recorded in places that you just tuck far, far, far away and hope it doesn't ever get addressed.
Look, man, Motley Crue's still out there playing the same old songs they wrote when they were dumbasses, and well, they might still be dumbasses, but they're still playing the same songs. So it's like, it doesn't matter, man.
That's debatable, though, right?
Okay, that's fair. Look.
I don't know. The Zalzan character is like a total alter ego that is. He was the original Little Dicky. His and I've talked about this with I don't want to get into that, but anyway, he had a small dick complex, so he overcompensated by being disgusting, and so that's his character, you know. And so he says the most disgusting. He has the most misunderstanding of sexual like things. He doesn't really understand sex, so. It's all sexual references that are gross or just don't make sense.
Wrong. Yeah, no, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, and like, he's gay. He's definitely gay, but he hangs out at playgrounds. It's like, that's not like, cancel culture is not ready for the Zalzan EP.
It reminds me of a group called Shat. They were like really promoted by the Buddyhead kids out in LA. Yeah. And this guy would just play the show in a diaper with a giant dildo strapped to his head, and it's just like, why not?
Did they open for Anal Cunt?
No, they opened Dillinger Escape Plan and Darkest Hour and all those little kind of metalcore bands in the late '90s, early aughts, actually. Yeah, they were just ridiculous, man. But you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's okay. Nobody really cares anymore.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, I'm not like I'm pro cancel culture in a way, but at the same time, it doesn't really stop anybody from doing anything. They continue to exist as people.
Yeah, no, consequence culture is cool. Consequence culture, if you know, if you
Yes,
deserve
okay,
it.
that's
But it's
fair.
like, speaking of Stephen King, like he can write whatever he wants. So, like, he can create crazy characters who, like, it doesn't have to reflect on him as a person. So I should be able to do that as well. I'm not
Right.
trying to have people celebrate the awfulness of humanity, but I do want them to be able to laugh at it when I display it.
Yes. Context is important. Context is always important.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
So that's why I had to create a Zalzan and not just have it be a Sage Francis song.
It would have been, yeah, it would have been, but it's fun, right? Like you get to use your creative capabilities in a different way, where you get the alter ego, and it would that we bring up Andy Kaufman, right? When he used to do what was the guy's name with the talk show when he had the hair and the mustache and everything like that? He would go on those talk shows under the different
Tony
character.
Clifton.
Tony Clifton.
Oh, yeah.
So like that,
I mean,
right?
it's
Where you
Pro
get
wrestling. Pro wrestling. Just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
more wrestling. Yes.
Oh, that's great. No, that I think that made sense because if it was under Sage Francis, I think the broccoli stuff that sort of transitioned over both characters, or not characters, but you know what I mean. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great.
Well,
That's probably
What a
my
weird
least
time.
favorite song on that album, though.
What's
which
that?
one?
The broccoli song.
Brockalude. Yeah, that was just an interlude, and that was a
It's funny,
reference.
but
It's really not supposed to be funny. It's really just a throwback reference to all the broccoli stuff that had happened in my career and to Zalzan. The broccoli cock was a thing. So whenever broccoli is referenced, it's a cock reference, and
okay.
it's really immature. Like, I'm not trying to pump it up and say this is some like high art, but I like that silly side to still kind of peek its way in from time to time.
Well, and it almost makes it high art because it's not obvious, you know, when you use code words like that. Like you're talking about broccoli, like, yeah, if someone catches on, then it does become high art in a, you know,
I will say,
lowbrow
too,
way.
You know, I've seen my fair share of terrible live performances, and they only get worse as the people get older and they just start rapping over their album, and they think you're going to win
Yeah.
over. But you've always done a great job at captivating an audience by being different and bringing high energy. Like you were up there with a no spin zones, just a CD player, and had to rock a whole crowd by yourself. And the only way to do that was to be creative, find parts of your songs that would transform and perform well in front of audiences. But I mean, the energy factor was huge, and I think you caught people like, there's no way you're turning away from this guy. He's sweating on everyone and throwing broccoli into the crowd, and everyone's engaged. So that was always a big part of your show. That was or a big part of your career that I thought was done very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to make any headway in my career if I wasn't able to captivate every type of crowd, because I've been put in front of so many different audiences, and that's always my opportunity to win fans. I've always I'm not trying to be a clown on stage. I will display different talents to try to like catch someone's attention. Like, oh, I haven't seen a rapper do that kind of thing before. Oh, you know, like, oh, he means what he says. You know, like it's not just like he's running through words. He's living this thing right now in front of me. It's something I wish I saw from more hip hop artists. Hip hop live performance is always a struggle to get through for me. It's not something that's captivating most of the time. It takes a special type of artist to really make it work, because hip hop, I think, is more of a recorded medium. It's best when it's done in a studio. It's best when you can like listen on your headphones and hear what everyone's saying. And when it's live and it's a lot of blah, 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 you can't catch shit. And it's just a looped beat. It's like, that doesn't work. It's like, or someone's rapping over the vocals that are pre-recorded. It's like, that doesn't work. And someone could look at me and say, dog, you're fucking doing karaoke, because I'm just rapping over pre-recorded music. I don't even have a live DJ on stage with me most of the time. I've toured with live bands and such. So what pushes me is to make it so they forget that there's pre-recorded music. I want to be the center of attention to the point where they're so captivated they totally forget what else is going on, and they're entertained simply by what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, and that energy that gets shared between artist and audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been lucky enough to figure that out. Yeah.
Early too. You know, I mean, at
Yeah.
least when in started in 2000, 2001, when I first started seeing it, like it was early when you had figured that out. And I know you and I both have seen countless number of people that everybody wants to be on stage. They bring their whole crew on. They
Yeah.
think they're super talented, and
and then
it's
they're
not
reading the
case.
lyrics off the phone or something.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I never saw the early days of Sage, but I think it was the Human the Death Dance tour, and we saw them. And it was Buck 65 who put on an amazing show,
Yeah.
and Buddy Wakefield who was just fantastic.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Alias. He was on that show as well. He was on that tour. He passed away a few years ago. Rest in peace. He's such an important part of our circle, and our sound and our style. He produced my most well-known songs outside of Best of Time. So he produced Sea Lion and Escape Artist, several other songs. He was such a beautiful dude, such a beautiful cat. Was a great rapper, incredible producer. But yeah, that tour was kind of rugged. We went through some rugged times on that, to the point, like the most rugged probably was when I was driving our van. We didn't have the van was overheating, so we had to blast the heat while we were driving in order so that it wouldn't overheat.
Oh, yeah.
But we were in Arizona in summer, so we're driving through the fucking desert in the summer, blasting the heat from the van, and everyone, like, I get to look in the rearview mirror, and everyone's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because
Miserable.
we had to get to Florida and then fix the van in Florida. It was not Florida, no, wherever we were at. But yeah, that was like that. We went through some rugged times on that tour, and there's a wrestling connection there as well. When we played Houston, we shared the venue with a wrestling event. So there was two parts of this venue, and we all shared the backstage. So it was us with wrestlers backstage,
That's
and
beautiful.
all of us looked like wrestlers. We all looked like we were wrestlers. So like they were like, people would have the baby oil on their hands, and they came up to our shirts and they would just rub their hands on our shirts. We were like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, oh no, I'm sorry. It's like, because that's something they do backstage. It's like, oh, I can use your shirt for this. But
There was
there's a
was
lot
that the
of stories.
motorcycle when they would ride out on the motorcycle? Was that tour, or was that a later one?
Oh
Thinking
wait,
about
who? I don't remember the
was that
motorcycle.
B. Dolan when he would come out like?
No, he wasn't even he wasn't touring just yet. He was like, he might have like helped with driving a little bit on that tour, but that was probably the follow-up tour.
It was a great show until you took off your shoe and spit in it, and my wife was done. She was like, I can't watch this anymore.
I didn't just spit on it; I licked it.
Yeah, you licked it. Yeah, you licked it too. She was
But
done
guess who
after the
never got
spit.
COVID? Guess who never got COVID? I did that in every city around the world. Guess who never got COVID?
There
It
you
was
go.
me.
Nice.
Natural
I just
immunity.
cursed myself. I just totally cursed myself.
Right?
I'm gonna get it now.
No one's gonna care though if you get it
No.
now.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever.
Hopefully it won't be that bad. You know,
Yeah.
it'll be all right.
All right.
But you seem like you're really enjoying being a dad too. I mean, for me, obviously, for some of us here that have kids, it's a game changer. But you seem like you're really taking to it, and it had to have. I'm guessing, but I would assume it's definitely changed your life in a lot of ways doing that. So
Yeah,
sure you're
it's the
enjoying
best.
it though.
It's the best.
We got
Well,
our
somebody
warning.
is 41, and I hopefully will have a kid in the next 2 years. I'm glad to know that it's still awesome at this age. It'll be rad. I look
Mine are
forward to it.
teenagers.
It's sad. It's
so-
kind of yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know how things will be in 10 years or 20 years. I don't know if I'll even be alive then. That's the saddest part about it. I mean, my father passed away at the age when I had my first son. So
Word.
it's like,
That's
I'm
weird.
scared I'm not going to experience as much as I want with them. But I really, really love the experience. And even raising two other girls since they were toddlers, that's been a crash course in parenthood. and a change in my life to the degree where everything is literally, or not literally, but it's inside out. It's just upside down and inside out. But I'm making sense of it. I'm still here and I'm thriving. I feel like they're happy, healthy, and we're all loving. It's great.
Absolutely.
Well,
That's why I'm
go ahead.
really looking forward to like a new, post Dad Sage record. I think that's going to be great.
We'll see.
So many
Fingers
punk
crossed.
bands become dads as we got older and like wrote really good like punk songs about fatherhood. So it'd be good to hear his.
Yeah, I mean I don't want to do that. I'll dedicate one song to that, but then I want the rest of my music to be an escape from everything else. My rap and music career has to be my getaway. That's my vacation. So I don't want to talk too much about that.
That makes sense. All right. Well, I think that was
All right,
our other
gentlemen.
dean, right?
Yeah,
Well,
it was.
I just want to say, hey, Sage, take as long as it takes to make a new record. It doesn't matter when it comes out. We just look forward to hearing it, man.
All right, you'll get it though. You'll get probably a flood of material once it starts happening. Yeah.
Nice.
Do it.
All right. I didn't
thank
write.
you for taking the time to meet with us. We definitely appreciate it. And it's been a long time and seen you in a lot of different forums and always been nice to me and I always appreciate it. So thank you for coming on and answering all the questions for us as well.
Thank you guys. Respect. Appreciate it.
Yeah, much
thank you
appreciated.
so much.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Is there anything you want to say as we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm finally starting to do shows again, bit by bit, not long runs, but here and there. So you can always check out the schedule at strangefamous.com, the events page. I try to do my best on the socials. I'm mostly active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I'm also on Threads and Blue Sky, which don't matter. Maybe Threads
We'll have
will
all
at
the
some
links
point.
down below, of course. So.
Okay. So, but yeah, outside of that, we're working on tons of new material with other artists. The Meter Maids just wrapped up their new album. They've been they've been gone for a while on hiatus. No one thought they were going to come out with another album, and they just completed it. I'm on 2 songs. Actually, I'm on several songs, but I do verses on 2 songs, and it's crazy. It's great. There's this dude, Old Boy. Old Boy Rhymes. He's living in Indonesia at the moment. This is gonna like surprise the hell out of people once it comes out. But he's a fire rapper. He's got he's got Mike and Nine on it. He's got me. He's got Brother Ali. He's got a lot of really quality features. Not that he needs them. I'm kind of like, hey, calm down with the features. You're really dope. But people want to hop on it. People want to get on it. It's like, yeah, we're making this work. So there's going to be some surprises in the new year. But before the end of the new year, we'll have a Meter Maids album, an album by Mopes and Trademark called Ham and Egger. Trademark is John Cena's cousin. And he did the
God.
Yeah, he did. Remember when Cena did the rap album with Trademark?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's Trademark. He's a fucking ill rapper from Boston. He's
word.
He's on Strange Famous Records. So we got a lot of stuff coming out.
Dude,
Very nice.
Awesome.
Damn.
All right,
dude.
y'all. Thanks.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough, Sage, for coming on to the show.
Well,
and,
hey,
having
tell you
a
what,
chat
man,
with us. This was awesome.
If you ever want to come back and hang out, you're more than welcome, man. Thank you.
All right. We'll
Yeah,
be posting
pick a
about
band.
this.
Yep.
Okay. You guys will get some good views on this. I like this discussion. We're gonna push it.
Right on.
Be sure
Yeah,
to like,
thank you so much.
subscribe.
Yeah,
be
smash
safe,
it.
Smash that goddamn
make good
button.
decisions.
Thank you.
Peace.
Have a good one.